The world changed in the year 2024. Terror spread throughout the cities of the world, and desperation drove everyone to run for their lives amidst the chaos. Attention of several monsters. Taking advantage of the situation, the boy buys time to save the child and his dog, bringing them to a safe location. Parked. The janitor senses that the animal notices something strange about the truck, as it becomes frightened. Indeed, the kitten was. Out of fear of what's behind him, a frightened Aluir injures the person who is feeding him. At this moment, they are inside the building where they live. Naro and his grandmother. The building's security guard notices the suspicious activity and wonders what is happening. Then, the security guard notices the truck driver heading to his truck. Although the truck driver appears human on the surface, he acts in a very suspicious way. He opens the back of the truck himself, and we see some shadows waiting to come out. Then we see Nero at his house eating breakfast, and it's worth mentioning that this is the last day he will go to school before moving. While they are having breakfast, Grandma notices a strange presence and wonders who it could be. She gets up and he tells Nero to go to school earlier because he has things to do. Following this, his grandmother quickly throws him out of the apartment without any explanation. Our protagonist takes the elevator down from the 12th floor of the building when the elevator doors open to reveal several delivery workers passing by him. As they pass, we see black smoke, which causes the boy to feel a strange, yet familiar sensation. This smell somehow affects our hero, although he doesn't understand why. Unsure of the reason, he can only curiously watch the delivery workers pass by. However, it must be remembered that nowhere was safe. The creature attacked again, but with a single blow, the boy swept the creature and everything else away. But after getting back into the elevator, he can't help but comment on how strange it all seems. Now, in front of apartment 201,101, the delivery workers ring the doorbell. As if waiting for them on the other side, we see the old woman, ready for battle. Below, our boy anxiously passes by the delivery truck. Curious, he peeks inside the truck to see how many deliveries there are and why so many delivery people are being sent at once. To his surprise, the truck is empty, and there is no trace of any deliveries. If there are no deliveries, then why did so many delivery drivers go up to the top floor? Suddenly, a loud noise from the upper part of the building's top floor makes itself known. Looking up, he notices a person falling heavily onto a tree. Naro is frightened because that person fell from the floor where his grandmother is, and he's worried about her well-being. Concerned, he turns back and takes the elevator to go home. For his, bad luck strikes as the elevators are out of service, so he decides to run up the stairs through the many floors of his house. The delivery men then attempt to attack the storeit grandmother. However, the lady, who was previously suppressing her powers to prevent her grandson from realizing there was a fight, is now using her full power, and as a result, she slices all the creatures apart with her red threads. These monsters don't stand a chance against her, but they still continue attacking. However, it's no use, as the lady ends up defeating them all. When defeated, the creatures turn into smoke, leaving. The demon and everything in its path was obliterated throughout the city. This person emits an aura of power, and their attacks are absolute. He concentrates his power and leaps to defeat several, leaving no trace that they were ever there. Just when she thought it was all over, one last monster attacks the grandmother, and the man strikes her, causing her to backing away. She starts using her threads to attack again. But to her surprise, this latest monster is not ordinary. Its appearance is. It's different, because what is a simigami? The monster tells the lady that the king's army is about to arrive, so there's no point in trying to face them. Furious and impatient, the lady grabs the creature by the neck with her threads and, standing over it, says that it's nonsense. The monster, irritated, attacks the grandmother and asks where the key is, demanding it. The desire to obtain the key was so great that the monster increased its intensity, and the lady who once seemed invincible is now being pressured by this creature. With even more anger, the grandmother surprises the monster and grabs it from behind, managing to injure the creature with his threads, and asks who the hell the king is when Naro finally manages to reach the final floor. The exhaustion is noticeable, as running up the stairs makes his heart feel like it's about to burst. Finally, when he arrives at his door and tries to open it, but his grandmother stops him, doing everything she can to prevent him from entering. It is in this moment of carelessness that, unknowingly, the lady gave the demon the opportunity to pierce her chest with its hand. The boy hears a scream coming from inside and, behind the creatures around the city, perhaps they were invincible, and defeating them all was not impossible. Then, suddenly, something even door, he insists on entering. The grandmother, despite being injured, has the strength to retaliate and manages to tear off the demon's arm. Creature in this situation, the monster assumes that the child behind the door might be the key, which is why the lady wants to prevent him from approaching. Reaching this conclusion, Grandma becomes even more furious, unleashing her power. However, this only makes the monster even more suspicious. Annoyed, the lady clutches her head and declares that anyone who knows too much must die. Outside, the doorman wonders if something truly fell. Curious, he goes to investigate but doesn't notice the blood on the trees or the apartment wall. At the apartment door, the same monster that fell is climbing and attacks Naro from behind. Simultaneously, we see that his grandmother has just defeated the creatures, but her injuries are very serious and worrying. However, he grows even more concerned when he sees the creature suddenly enter the house with his grandson, Nero. Taking him hostage, the lady remains silent, which prompts the monster to ask if the child is important to her. The lady is helpless in this situation and simply begs it to leave him alone, offering to go with the monster and give it what it seeks. Although her words sound sincere, the monster knows it cannot trust the old woman's words, so it demands the keys first, or Nero will suffer the consequences. Seeing his grandson, stranger happens. The monster approached with its gigantic foot and stomped on our savior. Logic would tell us that this would be the end. However, even the monster, threatened, the lady, left with no other choice, reveals her powers in front of her grandson Nero, who is quite surprised, having never witnessed this before. Seeing her grandson, the lady hesitates, and noticing this hesitation, the monster cuts off her arm. Seeing this, Aro screams in despair and bites the monster, tearing off a piece of it. The creature throws him away, and the boy slams into the wall with tremendous force. Seeing this, his grandmother becomes worried and runs towards her beloved grandson, lowering her guard. The monster seizes this opportunity and attacks the lady right in front of Nero and the mischievous girl. Completely overcome with panic, the boy tries to defend his grandmother, but he also ends up being impaled through the chest. With this, it can be said that the creature has just eliminated all the members of the protagonist's family, but in doing so, it senses an aura that is infinitely more powerful than before, and, looking back, he sees that the armless lady looks completely different. She extends her hand, and thousands of red threads form, binding the demon from everywhere. Closing her fist, the threads compress, and the creature is torn to pieces and dies. Our hero, wounded on the ground, sees that his grandmother is using that terrifying power, and he's scared, thinking maybe both of them would die now. So Naro didn't have time to think about it. His mind goes blank, and he has a clear vision of monsters and abyssal creatures flying through the sky, monsters in a terrible war against warriors who are also not. Most powerful creatures realized that something had gone wrong. The boy fought back and launched an attack that shattered everything, sending it skyward. When the most human. The curious thing is that these knights had the same marks that he saw on his grandmother. Maybe these were someone else's memories, as we see. The grandmother is in this place, fleeing with something in her arms, until she jumps into a dark and infinite vortex, never to return. Naro sees memories that are not his own. He then begins to recall his own memories. Naro had not always been so weak and cowardly, because when he was very young, he could defend himself when provoked. They provoked him, until one time a mother scolded him for hitting her son. Naro knew that he was only fighting back, but it can be said that his words at that time, they were worthless. After scolding the boy, the lady and her daughter left, and this brought our boy a feeling of being alone in the world, and without anyone to protect him. The lady, with her grandson in her arms, clutched at the wound on her back, and decided to do one last thing for her beloved grandson, while preparing for something. The lady says that the rebels still rule the land, and the passage to this world seems to be opening once again, manifesting itself. Its power. She says she has no other choice. Now she will return the weapon she took from the little prince, and send it to the battlefield. Battle. Manifesting only a red flame in her hand, she returns it to her grandson's delicate body. It can be said that this red flame is what was taken from him. Lastly, Grandma whispers that it is his destiny to have this power, so it was inevitable that this would happen. At that moment, the chains that bound the boy, the powerful monster was defeated. The true source of evil finally appeared in human form, preparing for battle against our protagonist. They break suddenly. A power floods his body, and the boy floats in the air. When the grandmother tries to touch her grandson, once again, he realizes that his body can't take it anymore, and little by little, he ends up fading away, leading us to understand that this is his sad end. Goodbye, grandson. I love you. These were his grandmother's last words. Sometime later, maybe hours or days, we don't know, Naro wakes up and realizes that his grandmother is not there, that he is alone in his house and has no memories of the last few days. He goes to the police station to report that his grandmother is missing. Naro returns many times to the police station to try to gather information and find out what happened to his grandmother. However, they always tell him the same thing. They always tell him that she simply disappeared without leaving any trace. Our hero tries to explain the situation to the police, saying that she is missing, and this monster is likely responsible. The boy believes that she was kidnapped by this creature. Because of this, the police they think it's just a prank by the boy and tell him that he shouldn't be joking about something so serious. Angry that they aren't taking him seriously, he goes home. Every day he tries to sleep, but his memories won't allow it. The nightmares from that day torment his mind, making it increasingly impossible to sleep ever since. Naro can't sleep anymore, and he doesn't even know if what he saw was a dream or reality. Weeks had passed, and the boy had gotten used to going to the Dnieper. He also realizes that he must take this seriously, simply because this will now be the final battle that decides the future of police to try and get updates. He went so often that, after a while, they ordered him to go back to school. Leaving the office of the director, a colleague is surprised to see him after so long and asks if he's all right. Our hero says he is, but just then, he has a bad feeling, though he doesn't know what it is. Later, in physical education class, everyone, as usual, dismisses him as the weakest. But to everyone's surprise, everyone. This time he was faster than the rest, as if he were a completely different person. The others, no matter how hard they tried, couldn't keep up. It's at this moment that he gets the feeling again that he's being watched, and he couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Even later, while still at school, he feels that same sensation of being watched. While trying to figure out who it is, he meets Luna, the prettiest girl in school, by stopping in place. Suddenly, the girl asks him if he needs anything at all. Suspicious, Nero declines, and then they walk together down the hallway. Curious, Luna inquires about the medications that he always took after school, especially since she hasn't seen him taking them recently. Nero responds that he feels much better now, so he doesn't need them anymore. In fact, now that he thinks about it more deeply, Nero hasn't taken his medication since his grandmother disappeared. This gives him an idea, and then he jumps out the window and leaves, saying that he has something extremely urgent to do. Shortly after, Luna encounters the student bully on the stairs, who clearly wants something from humanity. This is the story of how this hero decided to save the people he hates, and how a beautiful girl helped make this happen. But don't think that the bully acts incredibly foolishly when he sees the girl, and constantly tries to change his expression. In short, he tries to be friendly, but they completely ignore him. Completely walking down the hallway, she mentions it's a relief that our hero has stopped taking those pills, and that Nero is standing on the street, contemplating what happened at school. His body feels different, and he senses he's stronger. Across the street, he spots Luna, working at her part-time job. He didn't realize she worked here, but since it's near her house, he wonders if he should go over and say hello. However, before he can decide, an elderly woman behind him is gathering cardboard to sell. Being kind came naturally to him, so the boy stopped to assist her. Admiring her, our hero thought the old woman bore a striking resemblance to his grandmother. Noting the strong similarity to her face, the boy couldn't stare at her for long. He immediately felt embarrassed and had to look away. The boy, because he saw the lady who was stacking more cardboard, watches it collapse. Aware of this, the lady tells him that her cart is on the other side. The boy offers to help the lady, and he goes in search of his cart. At the same time, we are introduced to the boys from his class, who are heading to the store where Luna works. The girl doesn't seem very happy of these people, perhaps because she knows what they're coming for. These people say they are there to buy drinks and cigarettes. Then she asks them to. It all started in that battle. In fact, 8 months ago, people were still going to school as usual, and there was only one lone person, the only one who didn't show their IDs. The boys didn't like this, as they thought that because they were known to her, she would let it slide as a favor. Then, furious, he says that later, will hit her if she refuses to sell them cigarettes. Seeing that his friend is losing control, she then points out that the school bully has a crush on her and that if he does anything, the boy will die. The boy eventually calmed down, but ultimately they were kicked out and didn't get what they wanted. While the blonde got angry, his friend caught his attention and pointed out a homeless woman who seemed suitable to carry out their misdeeds. The boys then approach the woman and offer her money to buy them drinks and cigarettes. The woman, even though she is poor, refuses and says that the children shouldn't smoke or drink. The boys get angry and argue that the woman is poor, so she should just take the money. Nearby, our protagonist arrived and, from a distance, saw what they were doing, and he got angry because they were mistreating the old woman. The boy, stepping forward, helps the woman up and tells her to leave. After doing this, the boys approach him, towards him to ask why he's interfering. Is this lady your grandmother, by any chance? Our hero, realizing what they did to the cardboard that the lady worked so hard to collect, became enraged. The boys find it hilarious to see the weakling get angry at them. Then they drag our hero into an alley and say they're going to teach him a lesson. They throw him to the ground, and while one of them kicks our hero, the other keeps watch to see if anyone comes near. The destruction of the city was caused by horrible monsters, creatures of such immense size that they made hearts tremble with fear. Interact with others. There were those who harassed him. The bully sat on top of him while his friends filmed and laughed at the situation. The bully's motto was, the protagonist was beaten and something broke inside him. It's as if something was changing with each blow. The boy kicked him in the head, and the protagonist felt something was wrong. He then grabbed his foot and squeezed hard enough to break it. The other thug, hearing the screams, came running and asked him what he was doing and why he was hurting his friend. While he was saying that, our hero now seemed unaware of himself and what he was doing. He had just done. He had never done it before. Not understanding what was happening, he runs away, wondering what's happening to him. Near his house, in the park, he begins to remember that night he was mortally wounded and didn't die. And now, this different feeling of power makes him feel as if he were invincible. Or rather, it's as if it weren't his own body. The next day, our protagonist returned to school. The guys from yesterday were from his classroom, and some of them had already. Having learned what happened, the redhead tries to understand the events of the previous night, leading the bully to confront the protagonist and demand an explanation. However, irritated that the boy isn't paying attention, he asks why the loser is ignoring him in front of everyone, and then mentions that he's his friend. The protagonist feels hurt and retorts that it's the bully's fault of the protagonist. The other students find this argument strange, as it's highly unlikely that a punch from our protagonist could do anything to a bully. The bully, however, he is ignored and asks the protagonist if he wants to die. Seeing the situation, one of the other boys asks for the bully's understanding, explaining that our boy is going through a difficult time, that he could do anything he wanted to losers because they never win. Pulling her hair, he told her that a loser will always be a loser. Difficult time because his grandmother is missing, and asks if he could leave him alone. The bully, enraged by this, slams his fist on the table and demands to know who the other boy thinks he is to ask him for anything. It is at that moment, already tired of the bully's attitude, that our protagonist becomes enraged, giving him a cold glare. For some unknown reason, this look makes the bully, he feels as if his very soul is freezing over. These are eyes to be feared, and the bully is unable to stop the fear that washes over him, causing his legs to freeze in place. Just from our protagonist's expression, we can tell that it looks like Nero is going to kill him. Noticing this look, he fails to muster any courage, and instead, flees in fear. Seeing this, his friend thinks that our protagonist is different than before. He no longer seems like the same person, and he even had the courage to stand up to the bullies. During the night, someone was walking their dog down the street. When the animal notices someone running, it tries to attack, but that desire quickly vanishes, and it becomes frightened instead. Running for a bit, they show us that it's our guy, who arrives at an abandoned building. He enters the building with the intention of testing some suspicious things, which would be best tested on the top floor. There are several metal beams scattered there, and our guy has plans to try those things out. For better vision, he removes his hood and takes advantage of the moonlight reflecting off of him. Noticing this beam next to him, he has a plan. Move this metal, something that would normally be impossible. When he tries, even putting all his strength into it, he still couldn't move it. Not being able to do this, at 19 years old, the boy lived a terrible life, constantly surrounded by bullies who enjoyed taking advantage of others. During lunchtime, the boy expected that nothing would happen and that there was nothing wrong with him. However, he notices that the steel bar was dented to be 100% certain. Then he tries again with even more strength. Suddenly, marks appear on his neck, indicating that he is slowly awakening his power. Then, with even more effort, the bar finally rises, and he holds it impressively. Now that his power is awakened, he puts the bar over his head and manages to hold it with only one hand. His eyes shone with power, and in the face of all this, the boy didn't understand what was happening. Passing. The next day at school, the student with the injured leg went to the classroom. His classmates asked if he had been assaulted. Since he is injured, his friend, even though he was there that night, wanted to know what really happened and asks him if he kicked a wall or something. Thus, while his friend was asking him this, the blonde boy stared at the protagonist without a word. His friend, concerned, raised his voice, demanding an answer. "Speak softly, he might hear us. Speak softly, he might hear us," was what the blonde boy said. Then he changed the subject, saying he needed to study now. His friend knew that he had never been one to study, so something was definitely wrong. Besides, the book was upside down. Since he didn't understand what was going on, he started thinking about what he had seen that night and what was up with the protagonist's gaze at school, something he found very strange. Later, during school, the girls chatted within their groups, and the boys did the same. The boys heading to the cafeteria almost sat at the same table as lunch recess. As the nerdy students were eating, the bald bully approached them and said they had too much food and should share some with him. Following this, he sits down with his friends and a mountain of dozens of breaded chickens. Of course, the selfish jerk declares that it's all just for him. The bully then glances over at the girl that he likes, arriving at the cafeteria and motioning for her to sit with him. He comments that she's very thin, suggesting that if she eats a lot and gains some weight, it will not be a problem, but she completely ignores him and walks on. Faced with the girl's cold behavior towards him, the idiot freezes in shock. Meanwhile, the prettiest girl in school approaches our protagonist and asks if she can sit next to him. This immediately grabs everyone's attention in the cafeteria, because not only is she sitting with him, but she also seems very friendly towards this student. The school bully, now angry and frustrated, sends an aura of hatred surrounds our protagonist after lunch. He confronts his friend, asking him how that weak student broke his leg. The bully sincerely doubts that the protagonist could have become so strong, because as far as he's concerned, he's just a loser. The boy insists on making him understand that he is telling the truth and that he behaved in a strange, yet reckless way at that moment. The bully, still unable to believe this, hits the wall and says that he is crazy since it's impossible for someone to change so drastically, and asks if he hit his head. While the students are talking, someone comments that this, our hero, but one of them noticed and said that they couldn't sit there, that they couldn't be near that guy. Terrified, they went to find another place. Is very childish. That person is Luna. She says it's pathetic, because when he was weak, they bullied our protagonist, but now that he is strong, they are afraid. He tells him to be honest and admits that it is true that he is afraid. The bully doesn't let that affect him and says that the girl's jokes are funny and make him know that the loser is just acting tough, but he will soon show him his place. The girl then says, "Show him who's on top," as if daring the bald guy to, if he has the courage, to hit our protagonist. He continues with the same attitude, but insists on bothering him, so he asks him why he is comparing him to that loser. The girl, with the intention of adding more fuel to the fire, approaches him and says, "Be honest, admit that you are afraid, and that's okay." He understands that, after having been challenged like that, he smiles and says that that loser got involved where he shouldn't have. He's going to teach him a lesson, or even more. Well, therapy. That will set him straight. Later that day, Luna messaged the protagonist, telling him to go to the back door after school, with the warning that if he didn't, those guys would continue to harass him. This message reached him and the other students, informing them that the fight would happen. Many were on the phone, anxious for this moment, hoping that this loser would finally defeat the one who torments everyone. Unlike before, our protagonist wasn't nervous and simply found the whole thing meaningless. Everyone at school called him the druggie, dog, and outcast, and because of this, no one dared to talk to him. The protagonist was in need of medication. At 6 p.m., the protagonist showed up at the location. The guy who was already there stretched, saying that this loser would get a lesson today. Around them, others are arguing about who will win, but it seemed obvious to everyone that the underdog couldn't possibly win. The bald student comments that he was bored, so he's happy to alleviate his boredom a little. Then he tells Nero not to be boring and to last long enough to make it interesting. Nero simply maintained a cold expression without saying a word, but his fist reflected his intentions. Everyone around was counting down to when the fight would start, anticipating it to be funny. The onlookers surrounding them boosted the bully's morale. He's used to showing off to others, so to further boast, he declared that it's unfair to fight someone so pathetic. The arrogant bald guy says he'll do the following to make things fairer. The underdog is allowed to hit him first. Once he lands a punch right in the face, he'll freeze. This became a spectacle for everyone, But only one person was actually worried about him, the protagonist, and this person is his friend. Another one who is also worried is the blonde boy, but he's worried about the bald guy, because he knows that monster wasn't normal. Arrogantly, the bully insists that he hit him now, since he's been waiting. This didn't even need to be said, since the protagonist was already prepared. His attack was so fast that before the fist even landed, the wind from it had already contorted his face. After the impact, his teeth were knocked out, and every day. However, when he went to retrieve it, another student blatantly kicked him, knocking his medicine to the floor, where it spilled and was trampled. Flew backwards. Everyone was surprised by the outcome, as they never imagined this turn of events. The one with the broken leg? He was surprised because it only confirmed what he already suspected. The bully had been defeated with a single blow, and everyone witnessed the bully's downfall. Above everyone else, he falls to the ground like a garbage bag. Seething with rage, the protagonist says, "Get up." He grabs him by the shirt and yells, "Get up now. Idiot, we haven't even started yet." Everyone is frightened and horrified by what they are witnessing. They are seeing a person, completely different from what they had expected. His gaze was fierce, and his fists were now stained with the blood of those who deserved it. The thug on the ground begged for help. Then the protagonist tells him not to be afraid, because he won't kill him. He will simply teach him a lesson. The protagonist was so cold and calculating that I think his breath probably froze the bully's face solid while all of this was happening. Our load, the prettiest girl in school, was watching from the rooftop. She simply remarks that this was to be expected, and according to her, the result was exactly as he planned it would be. That night, something strange was happening. A creature was trying to break into a house just as our protagonist was returning home. He was surprised by his only friend, who warned him that he'd left his backpack at school. He also asks if the protagonist is okay, commenting that he seems different. They belittled the medicine, saying it was worthless. The boys even asked if he was impotent and if the medicine was supposed to help him get it up. If anything, so much, and in so little time. Those few words cause our hero to head home, deeply contemplating whether he really has changed. Regarding what he did today, he didn't like being violent, but he also doesn't regret it. The creature inside the apartment was looking for something when it was surprised by someone opening the door. When our hero turned on the light, he didn't notice anything different, but the mon was hiding on the ceiling, waiting for the opportune moment to attack. When he appeared distracted, the creature attacked, but the protagonist had actually noticed the creature and was able to react without any issues. The demon asks who the protagonist is, and at the same time, Naro asks who this demon is. The two engage in combat. The house is almost destroyed, but our hero doesn't receive a single blow. With his cold gaze, he dodges all the attacks, takes advantage of an opening, and grabs the creature and effortlessly destroys its arm. With this, the demon declares that our hero is not human. Surprised by this claim, the boy rips off the arm. The creature then flees through the window, leaping from the building. The creature believed it was safe, but the human pursued it without hesitation, descending right behind the creature, jumping across the fans and finally striking it with a powerful blow. The creature crashes heavily to the ground when it finally lands on the street. He notices that the creature escaped, but is severely wounded. Our hero isn't concerned about this, as it will be easy for him to. They don't understand what he means, as he's referring to his little friend, and thinks he's impotent because of the pills he's taking. Aside from the humiliation they spoke badly of, track it down. The demon wonders just who that guy is. This must be reported to their leader immediately, as there shouldn't be a human like this while ran, only to be surprised once again by the cold-eyed human. Both the demon and we are scared, and even though the creature tries to hit him, it's useless, because our boy is totally different now. He calmly watches the creature flee, then grabs an umbrella, and, using his strength, prepares, and throws the object, impaling the creature, which didn't even have the opportunity to perceive something approaching so fast. The impact was so powerful that the monster was pinned to the wall. Then, our hero approaches, and, while holding the umbrella, asks why it was here, who it is, and what it wanted. The monster, left with no choice, responds that it is here for his. This makes Nero remember the day they attacked his grandmother, but he still doesn't remember how the creature disappeared. He mentions that none of the fighters sent after the woman last month reported back or returned. Naro then asks why his grandmother. The monster replies that his grandmother is the X-gene of passed after the woman. None of them reported or returned. Naro then asks why his grandmother. The monster responds that his grandmother is the X-gene of the guards. Then the monster asks if the grandmother is the child's grandmother. Enraged upon learning that his grandmother was attacked, the boy demands an answer to his question, since it still isn't answering why they are doing this. The creature shouts that they are looking for the key. She has the key, so they sent his mother, who had apparently died. All the taunts filled him with so much anger that he couldn't take it anymore. The boys noticed his intention to get revenge, messenger to retrieve it. With a cold look, now filled with hatred, he asks where the other demons are who attacked his grandmother. The creature replies that they are on the other side of the portal and questions whether he shouldn't already know this, considering he is also a demon. With that statement, Nero dismisses it as nonsense, asking how he could possibly be a demon or a monster like the creature. The demon then shouts angrily, exclaiming, "Look at yourself. How? Can you claim you're not a monster? Are you certain you're not human? Look at your hands. Would a human be capable of that?" Disturbed by these words, Nero notices a shard of mirror on the ground, reflecting a distorted image of himself. The sight causes him to question his own humanity, and he says, "I won't be able to remain human. What is happening to me?" Nero questions whether he is a monster, but in that moment, while he was distracted and lost in thought, the creature seized the opportunity and fled. He didn't even notice that. Someone was walking through the alleys in the rain, and a man, weary from work, wondered why someone was out without an umbrella. As he got closer, he was stunned by the appearance of this thing. The demon simply smiled before fleeing into the sewers. Meanwhile, our hero ran towards the rain. He was completely lost and aimless, so much so that he even fell. A mother and her son asked if the young man was all right. The boy was afraid and said, "Mom," his face, "Mom, it's different." And indeed, this person's eyes were not normal. Trying to hide his appearance, our hero simply didn't. These creatures appeared everywhere. There were even creatures flying and wreaking havoc in the skies. Perhaps some might think that and they were worried by his expression. But soon, this suspicion passed, and they began laughing again at the orphaned loser. The former bully approached and told him no, respond, and ran away. Meanwhile, in the underworld, abyssal creatures and a raging storm could be seen across the skies. This is the place beyond. The portal to the demon world opened, and the creature managed to return, bringing news. This is the first scout to return with information. He is one of the servants. A demon tells him to inform the leader that he discovered the monster. He reports that our protagonist's grandmother, known as Sana, is dead, and there is no trace of her in the human world, but found a young man. That man has the characteristics of that traitor. One of the demons asks him why he didn't bring that young man, to which the monster, embarrassed, replies that it was impossible, since the difference in power was too great. The demon gets upset and shouts if he was defeated by a mere human. The demon insists that he was not human, since his aura was colder than that of even the coldest demons. Powerful. Hearing these words, the person from before expresses interest. This is the demon general, Chen, who approaches and asks if he is correct in the information he described. The monster insists that he would never dare to lie to his general, and tells him it felt as if his body was burning with the child's aura of the child. Upon hearing this, the general simply eliminates the demon, and it is clear that his cold, red eyes show any mercy when eliminating the monster. His faithful servant comments that the bastard returned with the wrong information. This, it seems, is a sensitive. They could mistreat this dog, since he is the only one allowed to hit him, because our hero is his personal punching bag, and to prove it, he attacked the boy repeatedly. Delicate topic, so the general tells him to never say that again. Someone with an aura so cold that it burns like fire, that's nonsense. Finally, the one who is sitting on the throne, he rises and contemplates the messenger's words, cold fire, and the whereabouts of the missing son. Then he declares that the descendant of the first king is alive. Since the dawn of time, humans and monsters have been in a perpetual state of war. The abyssals have been battling humans since the medieval era, and at one point, the passage between the two worlds widened. Countless victims were left stained with blood. Suddenly, all passages leading to the human world were sealed off after the war. Since then, millennia have passed, and for humans, demons have faded into legends or ancient myths. But no matter how much time elapses, these borders, it will eventually crack again, and all the entrances that were sealed by someone will reopen, leading to the demise of humanity and its return to nothingness. Human. Our protagonist rushed to the police station after the police discovered images of his grandmother. After examining the images, Naro confirms that it was indeed his grandmother. The police inquired if his grandmother was ill, as she was filmed in an area where people purchase medication. This reminds him that his grandmother was always giving him medicine, specifically those black pills from the beginning of the story. Our hero then rushes out and times until he felt satisfied. Our hero, named Naro, although he was beaten, says that he doesn't mind being hit. What? Asks the police officer to email him the address. Immediately after, he hurries to the location shown in the images. The boy went there to investigate, because if his grandmother bought someone's specific medications, maybe that person knew more information about them. After searching extensively, he found it. This was the place where his grandmother bought those black medicines that were claimed to be pills. Upon arriving, he doesn't even introduce himself. He only mentions his grandmother's name, and upon hearing these words, the man tells him to wait there. After waiting a few seconds, the protagonist realized that the man had run away, so he decided to chase after him. For some reason, the man abandoned his shop. Then, Naro chased him through the alleys. The man couldn't be faster than the little monster, so he decided to attack. But upon hearing our hero say that it concerned his grandmother, the man stopped and asked what the boy said. He repeated, insisting it was his grandmother who bought it for him. Surprised, the man finally spoke, confessing that this is a medicine with numerous side effects. To be precise, its purpose is to prevent the emergence of demonic powers. He explains that the demons who escape from the underworld possess weakened powers upon arriving here, so they take this medicine to disguise themselves among humans. This leads the protagonist to wonder if his grandmother's actions meant that he, too, would become a demon, and perhaps he isn't truly. What bothers him is the feeling of his body being trapped, unable to gather the strength to defend himself. In short, it's as if human. Meanwhile, the merchant wondered if this was the boy who bound and traversed the gap between the human and demon worlds. The protagonist has many doubts filled his head, and he asked the man to recount his grandmother's story. The man explained that Sana had been the greatest warrior in the kingdom of demons, making her the general of the royal guard, serving the empress. One day, an act defying the will of the heavens occurred. King Kum's younger brother had raised an army and invaded the palace. That marked the beginning of terrible days, and due to the events unfolding, many tried to protect the king, only to become mere ashes, lost forever. In the end, the king and queen fell. Kun sacrificed thousands of his brother's followers in order to seize the throne. Only a handful of survivors from the old king's reign managed to escape to the human world and conceal themselves here. So centuries ago, some demons lived amongst humans. After hiding for some time, Kum sent fighters to hunt them down, and the old man thought the boy was one of them. The protagonist asks if that's why the old man fled, because he believed he was an envoy of Kum. The response of the elder confirms this. Furthermore, the old man explains that he is a fugitive demon and knows that they are trying to take something that the boy's grandmother possesses. So, when she stopped coming, he became worried. He didn't know what had happened. Then the old man asks if something happened to his grandmother. This brings sadness too. He were chained, unable to use his strength, preventing him from even attempting to attack someone in self-defense. This means that the boy, our boy, because he has to inform him that his beloved grandmother died. Upon hearing the sad news, the old man warns that those people will not give up. They have been defeated, but they will continue to send people to hunt down those like them, especially the protagonist. These words enrage him because, in the end, it all came down to him. Later, on the rooftop of a building, he questions his very existence, wondering if he is human or demon. The truth is irrelevant. However, the most important and valuable thing he possessed was taken from him. So now, he will no longer hide, and he will make those who took away his treasure pay with their lives. Now, that is all that matters to him. Meanwhile, in the demon world, they are searching for survivors, and they say that no one has ever returned alive. This is because this place is known as Death Pass. The two demons remark that humans are arrogant. They think they're safe just because they can't get through right now. They claim they'll conquer the human world without suffering any harm as soon as the passage opens. The black-haired boy with red eyes says that Seeger left the key to this passage with the deceased son of the former king. The current king, Demon, says that this child is their opportunity, so he orders that chaos be given to the child and that soldiers be sent to find him. Now we return to Nero's house. Our boy searches through his missing grandmother's belongings and finds a photo of the two of them. This catches his attention, and he says that doesn't not want to defend himself, but he is unable to because of the helplessness he feels, as if he were chained. All these punches and slaps simply fuel his anger. No matter where she comes from, no matter how old she is, she will always be special to him. Our boy picks up the photo, puts it in his coat, and says that she will always be the same grandmother, which he always experienced on his first day of school. After that confrontation with the bald thug, rumors spread that he had defeated the person who everyone hates, and because of that, people who previously ignored him are now friendly towards him. Nero doesn't understand why this is happening, so the boy who used to talk with him says that things have changed. Before, nobody had the courage to confront that person, and they avoided him so as not to become a target, but from now on, they will never have to see the bully again. At that moment, the girl that everyone finds very pretty approaches and tells Nero that he should meet her after school. Our protagonist asks why he should do that. However, his friend forces him to agree that he will go. The girl then withdraws, and her friend says he expected something like this to happen. Furthermore, he congratulates Naro, who sees himself as just a normal student, living a normal life, and maybe he'll even get a girlfriend. Meanwhile, elsewhere, we see the angry, bald bully taking out his rage on others. He wonders to himself why everyone is gossiping so much. How dare they spread rumors like that? The boy with the broken leg then asks if they are going to do the same thing to the protagonist, to which the bully, with a dark look on his face, asks if they have a problem with him. His friends say no, so the boy, and his only desire at this moment is to kill them all, because, in his eyes, they all deserve to die. This look enrages the Exiton, who asks how he, ugly bald guy, says that a dog that bites people should be put down. Later on, the bully confronts Nero's friend in the corner in order to, they say they want to meet with Nero to apologize, but this is clearly a trap, so the boy refuses, and then, irritated, he slaps him. How horrible. Bald asks him if he's sure about what he's saying, and kicks him in the belly a few times to convince him to obey. Since there is no response, the boy's hand suffers the consequences. To his surprise, something unexpected happens. The boy, although humiliated, he retaliates and tries to hit the bully's face. Maybe he no longer wanted to take a beating without defending himself. Being challenged once again, he leaves him so furious that he retaliates with full force against the defenseless student. Meanwhile, Naro was in the classroom, thinking about the events that transpired in the demon world. Then, our protagonist realizes that his friend, who went to the restroom, is taking an unusually long time to return. Furthermore, the bullies are not in the room. When he went out to check, fearing the worst, his friend came back, but despite his changed appearance, he doesn't say what happened, and the only thing he mentions is that he was just skipping class. The boy keeps the secret and insists on not telling Naro that they asked to see him, knowing that it's a trap. At the protagonist's insistence, his friend reveals that he fought with them, but it's nothing serious. They weren't even that strong, because he managed to dare to look at him like that. He says that a dog should have the look of a dog, and with that, he prepares to attack. However, before he can strike the protagonist, hit the bully. Determined to do the opposite of what his friend wanted, he now decides to go and meet them, and not because his friend warned him against it. Who wants to prevent innocent people from being harmed again? The boy didn't want to let him go, but he understands and says that Naro has changed. Thanks to Naro, he realized that if he doesn't defend himself, he'll become a punching bag, and that's why he wants to become strong. So he won't be a punching bag. Even though his friend smiles while saying he defended himself, Naro knows that anyone who experiences this can pretend to be happy, but it's actually terrifying. Later, our hero apologizes to the cute girl, Luna, because he won't be able to go. Remember that Luna had previously asked to speak with him after class, but now he tells her he has something more important to do and is going to. They encounter the bullies again. The girl somehow understands the situation unfolding and decides to let it slide. At the same time, something strange occurs, and that is, we see hooded figures standing in front of the school. The students don't understand who these people are, nor what they're doing at the school. The thugs dragged Naro to an abandoned place and told him that if he wasn't a coward, he should enter without fear. Our hero was ready to speak, but he was attacked from behind. Meanwhile, back at the school, the hooded figures were searching for something or someone, sniffing around and tracking their target. These people are. A girl appears again, causing the Exiton to completely change his demeanor. This is Luna, a 9-year-old student, and the most quite suspicious, and it's clear that the students had no idea about the danger they were in when they returned to the shed. Abandoned by the school, we see how our hero was surprised by an attack, but Naro dodged it and began to counterattack, defeating the students easily. He kicked an iron bar with such force that it got stuck in the ceiling. Naro continued attacking and knocking out the others with a single blow. Even though they were afraid, they continued to attack, and as a result, they were all defeated. The bald man, scared, didn't understand what was going on, how that failure could once again defeat everyone with a single blow. Naro then looked at him coldly and called him over, but since he didn't do so, we now know that he is a total coward. So much so that the bald man considers grabbing the bottle next to him to attack. The bald guy does it, and he begins to threaten that he won't make it out of this alive. Despite the threat, the protagonist remained unafraid. However, the fight was interrupted by something. Something was happening at the school. The monsters had rebelled and begun attacking the students. The abyssal creatures were hunting for their prey and its scent. They were after everyone who carried their scent, including the protagonist's friend. The two noticed the panicked screams of the students, and the hero also sensed the presence of demons in the area. The boy was worried about everyone else, so much so that he dared to turn his beautiful girl in the school. The girl tells them to move out of the way because they are blocking her path. Upon hearing this, the Exiton begins to back on his enemy, who, like the coward he is, then mercilessly attacked the bald man from behind. But even with this cowardly attack, our hero noticed time and slammed the door shut, preventing the attack. The protagonist simply stated, "If you don't want to die, everyone needs to be quiet and stay put, because something dangerous is happening." Enraged by being told to shut up, the bald idiot was determined to kill him as revenge for the humiliation he suffered. The teachers noticed the commotion and went to investigate why the students were making so much noise, only to witness their students being silenced forever right before their eyes. The creatures attacked everything in their path, including the teachers. Of course, everything was a target in their search for the girl. Luna was in another part of the school that hadn't been attacked by the demons yet, but she eventually heard that the other side of the school was being invaded by monsters. Upon hearing this, he quickly ran towards the location. While everyone else was fleeing, the girl ran towards the monsters. When confronted with the first demon, she dodged it with precision and, using a weapon attached to her leg, went after the creature. Jumping on top of it, the beautiful girl grabbed the creature by the neck, and with the help of her weapon, the creature was eliminated. This perverted monster was sniffing the student's neck. His friends, fearful of the situation, simply abandoned him, or another innocent student would be. People would be safe inside the destroyed buildings. However, that was not the case. A man hid in fear, demonstrating that nowhere was safe. Act like a complete idiot, and apologizes for obstructing Luna. Because of this, they give up and leave, saying that the mysterious girl can enjoy her water. Unfairly eliminated. However, Naro appeared and activated the fire alarm. With this, the monsters finally identified their prey and attacked him. The boy's intention was to escape and draw the creatures away from the other students. Along the way, the bully planned to ambush the protagonist, to get revenge, but without him realizing it, the monster grabbed him and threatened the protagonist, saying that if he kept running, the bully would die. If I were the protagonist, I wouldn't obey, and would let that trash be eliminated. The idiot student was now screaming and begging for help. "Don't just stand there, help me," were the coward's words. Just then, Naro asked why he should help him. Upon hearing those words, the terror of Estella was reflected on the bully's face. When the creature lifted its prey into the air, he screamed, begging them to forgive his mistake, saying he regretted it, and pleading to be saved in the nick of time. He noticed that our hero had vanished. The thug assumed he had run away, but in a matter of seconds, our hero reappeared and beat him to a pulp at the creature, which caused it to release the thug. Wasting no time, he delivered blow after blow with such overwhelming force that it even destroyed the wall. Having just witnessed this strength, the thug realized that the boy he wanted to get revenge on was powerful in a way that he couldn't even fathom. The outcome of this fight was obvious. Witnessing what had just transpired, the thug trembled in fear, and after confirming, watches the former bullies leave as our hero sits there looking defeated. The girl stops in front of him and stares intently, despite being that the monster was defeated. He asked in terror if he was even human. Perhaps the protagonist himself had doubts about it, but most likely, I would say yes. But before I could answer, another monster is hurled against the wall. Upon closer inspection, we see that it's the most beautiful one, who is engaging in battle against the creatures. Witnessing all of this, our protagonist wonders just how she is so powerful. Then, the girl shifts her attention to the two of them, but seeing them standing there motionless, she says, "Why are you so useless?" She then jumps and stomps on the thug's face, instantly knocking him unconscious on the floor. She tells our hero that she will take care of the people inside, while he needs to escape the building, so they will chase after him. The Protagonist. Initially, Naro doesn't understand the reason for this. She asks him if he's an idiot. Apparently, the boy still hasn't. Realizing that the monsters are after him, he knows that if he leaves this place, they will follow. At that moment, the protagonist had several questions to ask the girl, but dozens of monsters appear in the hallway, and she yells at him to hurry and flee to the school gym, as he's determined to resolve the situation. He jumps out the window and runs towards the gym. When he arrives, he looks back and wonders why none of them are following. To his surprise, several of them jump out the window. With so many attacking all at once, our boy can barely defend himself, and, as a result, he is pressured by the face-to-face. This lasts only a few seconds or minutes, and neither of them says a word. Then, he silently gets up with his head bowed and leaves behind the medicine that creatures. While he's covering himself, disgusting slime drips onto his face until the girl's wire catches the monsters, and they are flung back against the wall. And they dismiss the question, who is she, and how is she also able to fight these monsters? Luna replies that those questions will have to wait, since they have more urgent matters to attend to. She says this because the monsters have begun to invade the area in a pack, and now there are dozens and dozens of creatures. The two of them are cornered, at a complete disadvantage. The monsters begin to merge together, transforming into a colossal creature, covered in eyes. This bizarre transformation gives them time to hide, while the creature is distracted for a few seconds. Our boy wonders how they were able to handle something so large. Luna then says she has an idea and explains it to him. Immediately after, the monster notices them. The girl screams, saying it's horrible and noisy, which gives the monster the initiative to attack with his enormous, gigantic hand. With this gigantic, deadly hand, he intended to grab the beautiful girl and crush her with just one hand. Faced with this danger, she dodges, causing the giant curtain to fall on the monster, blinding him as he looks up. She declares that it's her turn. Our guy, hanging from the ceiling, plans to tear off the iron structure from the roof. Then, the structure falls on the giant monster. Meanwhile, inside, was scattered on the ground. Somehow, the girl notices it there, recognizes it, and reacts in an unexpected way. Her surprised reaction, the school, all the students have been eliminated. A different monster, radiating a dark aura, walked with a student in its grasp. Looking through the Ventana noticed something strange inside that gym, thinking to himself that it might be what he needed. On the sports field, there was a giant monster that was defeated and impaled on the ground by a metal structure. They then observed closely to ensure it was eliminated completely. After checking the protagonist questioned whether his grandmother had also turned to ashes like this demon. Luna suggested that it would be best if they went to a safe place, but before they could leave, Naro heard a scream. It was the voice of his only friend at the gym door, who was bleeding. Upon seeing this, the protagonist quickly ran towards his friend. The boy asked if he was okay and inquired why he was bleeding. At that precise moment, Luna noticed a shadow at their feet, and he said this darkness is not normal. The boy questioned its importance, but then, seeing his friend begin to scream in pain, he ignored the warning and he helped his friend. Just as the girl had warned, something happened. A shadow loomed behind them, and a demon was ready to attack. The strange creature pierced the two children with its giant hands. Worried, Luna screamed for our boy. Unfortunately, both of them fell, seriously injured. The boy with the glasses is gravely injured, and I doubt he will be saved. Our hero, seeing his friend in this state, feels that this feeling leaves us wondering what she knows and who she is. Afterwards, Naro watches from the school rooftop as people play soccer, happy and carefree. With his mind, is the same as the day he lost his grandmother. Will he have to go through this again? His friend, unfortunately, couldn't hold on any longer and ended up passing on to the afterlife. Although, honestly, they don't explicitly say whether he died or fainted, but I assure you we'll find out later. Upon losing someone, important memories flooded back, strongly in his mind. As Luna screamed, Nero recalled his happy moments with his grandmother and all the moments that warmed his heart on his birthday. His wishes to live happily ever after with his grandmother now seem quite distant. His happy memories have now turned terrifying, and his grandmother is no longer in this world. His happiness is gone, and as he tries to touch her arm one last time, he notices how she turns to ashes before fading from his memories. His grandmother tells our boy to protect the entrances to this world. These memories enrage the boy, and he ends up awakening a hidden power he didn't know how to use, manifested as blue flames emanating from his entire body, worrying the demon and frightening Luna, the girl, and the demon. They are certain that our hero is not the same as before. now possessing a much greater strength. With just a single step, our hero freezes everything around him. His breath is capable of freezing even the souls of the worst demons. After freezing the creature in front of him solid, he shatters it into pieces, and thus it is eliminated. After doing this, he passes out. Then he wakes up in an unknown place. Someone treated his wounds, and this bed smells nice. The, clouded by frustration, he thinks life is unfair and wonders why he is so weak, unlike them. The boy can't bring himself to have fun, since, girl bring him to her bed? As he leaves the room and walks through the luxurious house, he notices sharp steel bars on the windows. After passing the first store he saw, he discovers a complete arsenal filled with all kinds of weapons. Clearly, using common sense, this house couldn't possibly be normal. Furthermore, these weapons are excessive. When he notices someone approaching, Acha grabs an axe to attack. Our hero prepares to attack and, for a moment, was ready to eliminate anything that came his way. However, he didn't expect that instead of a creature, the most beautiful girl would appear. From school, yes, Luna. After a few minutes, our boy was suspiciously examining a strangely shaped painting in the girl's house. When he finally got ready and the girl came downstairs to talk to him, our main character began to wonder who this girl really is and how she knows how to fight as well. Luna comments that, to be honest, she thought he would have died that day. Even after sustaining those injuries, she still thinks he could die at any moment. She sits on the couch and then says, "It's incredible that he's still alive." Our protagonist says he doesn't remember what happened beforehand. The girl, in a pose that distracts the narrator, says it's good that he doesn't remember. After talking for a while longer, Naro thanks him for saving her life, and then says that a while ago, he was very aggressive towards the person who saved his life. Our demon boy wants to know what happened to Junyan, his friend, who, he doesn't even have friends and thinks everything would be easier if he took one more step while his mind was clouded over. He receives a message on his phone. Mai was stabbed in the chest along with him. Luna, smiling, says that she knew he would ask about that, and she replies that Junyan is fine and is being treated. In a secure location, our hero asks if that's really true, and the girl confirms it. Hearing this wonderful news, our hero begins to cry in front of her, not caring about how he looks. He says it's a genuine relief to hear this. The girl doesn't seem to understand this kind of emotion and wonders why he's crying. Our hero's expression changes, and he asks who Luna truly is. This look he throws towards the girl is quite frightening. The two stare at each other, seconds ticking by in silence. After an uncomfortable silence, she stands up and says that she's hungry and suggests they eat something first. Naro didn't answer her question, so the girl says it's her fault that he wasn't able to. He hasn't eaten a single meal since yesterday. Receiving no response, our hero gets up and prepares to leave. The girl cries out, asking why he's doing this, and he asks where he's going. Naro then replies that he can't stay at the house of someone he doesn't even know. At this, Lune intervenes and says that he is in a delicate condition, so he can't leave this place, because he doesn't even know if he'll live to see tomorrow, and the only way for him to get out of here is if he manages to defeat her. Naro then becomes irritated and almost punches the girl in the face. However, while trying to hit the girl, the wound on his chest reopens. With her, "Grandson, are you okay? What would you like for dinner?" This simple message erases the sadness from his face. He remembers the only person who raised him and loves him, his grandmother. Fierce look, she says that's what she meant, throws him to the ground, and asks him if he thinks he's capable of defeating her, even when he's in a normal state. Our hero, he blames Luna because his grandmother died and her entire family is gone. And as if that weren't enough, now the children at school are hurt because of her. Luna understands. She shares some of her emotions and makes it clear that she will now be his guardian. This was something unexpected and ended up astonishing our protagonist. Luna warns that, from now on, he is her guest. She prepared something for them to eat, but it seems that what she prepared is burning, and our boy makes this known. Actually, everything the girl prepared burned. Given what has happened, the girl then begins to complain that since yesterday she couldn't eat because she had to help someone, and now, when she finally made a special meal, she burned it because he was arguing with her, with someone who is literally placing all the blame on him. Our embarrassed Naro is asked if he has any ingredients left. Seconds later, our hero begins to show off his incredible culinary skills. The boy seems to be more powerful in the kitchen than on the battlefield. In just a few minutes, he prepared an amazing meal for them. Our hero then mentions that his grandmother taught him how to cook when he becomes independent. Luna is curious about whether he was close to his grandmother, to which our hero replies that yes, they were very close. He remembers all the happy times and thinks it was better when it was just the two of them, but now that he's grown up and has to go to school, things. Apparently, our girl doesn't know what it's like to be close to someone, so she asks what his grandmother was like, while the two mysterious teenagers talk about her. Life in the normal world is disrupted as news spreads about this terrible attack. Recordings and images were posted online, but the authorities removed this content from the internet to prevent public alarm, as people couldn't discern whether it was real or just a fake video on a security council discussed how to suppress this information from the public. However, revealing the truth will be a bit complicated, since there were many survivors who were able to spread the truth. Furthermore, the student who defeated the creatures is still out there. The leader of this organization doesn't know who our hero is, so he declares that he wants to meet this boy right now. His interest is 100% focused on discovering our hero's identity. Then, we return to a place where the atmosphere seems romantic. Our boy recounts how his grandmother was an extremely intimidating person when she told him she was a nag, but also a kind person with a pure heart. Even though he was a very difficult child, she never showed any displeasure towards her grandson. When he looked like he was going to say something, but Luna interrupts and says that he is safe in this place. The boy is apparently grateful, but says he needs to do something now. The girl then asks if he isn't curious about what those creatures were. Naro remembers what have become like this. A child comes onto the school terrace and asks what he is doing there, since it is prohibited to be in this. The girl previously told him, and he realizes that Luna seemed to know what those creatures were. Furthermore, an ordinary person would have no reason to. Having a place with so many weapons makes him scared to think about the possibilities this girl possesses regarding demons. Following this, the girl asks him to follow her. Then she takes him to the door of her house and says that he needs to know a place where he will obtain answers and also the strength that he needs to fight them. After crossing this city bridge, which we saw completely destroyed at the beginning of the story, they arrive at the place where the large defense base against the monsters is located, a large building featuring 3 giant video panels on the roof. So Nero asks if this place is really a secret organization. She confirms this and says that a secret organization has to be in a secret place inside the building. Things appear normal, and nothing seems out of the ordinary as they wander through the building. Luna then recounts the history of this place and how it has been battling these creatures for centuries. The elevator doors were nearly closed, but they are stopped by a girl with long purple hair and an expressionless face, holding a guitar. She doesn't even greet him, instead asking him to input his biometric ID, followed by, of this, typing in a secret number. After this is completed, we see that inside the elevator, things are moving at a faster pace than normal. So, everyone was being hunted. However, a boy, dressed in blue, standing atop a building, remained calm as he observed the destruction. A dog. Place. This person is the only one who talks to our hero, but only when no one else is around. Without saying much, the protagonist just says that he's okay, and protagonist asks, "Which floor are you going to?" This comment makes the girl angry at Naro, and our hero doesn't understand why his question elicits that reaction. Luna bursts into laughter as they finally reach their desired floor. Guided by the girl, they proceed into areas where scientists work and people undergo suspicious physical tests. Then, they finally arrive at the location that was Naro's destination. In this place, Luna takes the initiative and says to the girl named Arin, "It's been a long time, so why don't you introduce the newcomer first?" This situation is completely unknown to our hero, and he can simply do nothing but observe the situation. Upon entering the place, he notices that the room contains tens of thousands of cameras. It's like a completely armored room, observing from every possible angle. This organization was in a disguised room behind a glass panel. Seeing them arrive, the man announces that the person he had been waiting for has finally arrived, while our hero is visibly impressed by the location. We then see that the girl was preparing with a suspicious look on her face. She then opens her guitar case, and to everyone's surprise, there's a gun inside. With great skill, she begins to assemble the weapon. This made Naro feel uneasy as he imagined what was about to happen. After she finished assembling it, without any warning, she pointed it at Naro. Our protagonist hadn't anticipated this, and he stares at the weapon in astonishment. However, Luna seems surprised, and then he leaves first to avoid being seen together. He returns to the classroom, which is now dirty and silent, and sits at his desk. Meanwhile, the beautiful asked what she was doing. The girl replies that she knows what she's doing and asks why the demon didn't raise his guard when he saw the gun. Naro understood nothing of what was happening, and Luna asserts that this isn't what they should be doing, while the mysterious man observed everything from behind. Of the crystal, Arin says it's her fault. Then she pulls the trigger, and we see how the magical projectile passed nearby, but didn't hit, or so we thought. Because it actually did hit him slightly. At the same time, this man was evaluating him in both the speed test and the reflexes test. Then, the girl repeats the action and starts shooting frantically. But thanks to his speed, the boy manages to move quickly in the area, dodging all the projectiles. Sensing an opening, he approaches the girl, and with a single kick, his leg, which was 3 meters long, caused the shots to hit. The ceiling collapsed, and pieces fell around them, forcing them to create distance to dodge the debris. The smoke from the rubble made it difficult to see, but when his vision cleared, he noticed something emerging from the smoke that nearly struck him. Then, the girl began spinning her equipment, which dispersed the smoke. The girl looked very serious about what he wanted to do, so while Naro attacked, he could only constantly dodge. Our hero wondered if he should retaliate or not, but he worried about losing control of his demonic power, because if that happened again, more people would come to eliminate him. The leader of the area observed the blonde girl continues to observe the other students gathered around a table. One of them is showing images where a monster was supposedly battle up close, and remarked that it was incredible, noting his remarkable defense. However, he couldn't understand why the boy wasn't attacking as aggressively as his enemy. He simply can't hold his own on the battlefield. The boy doesn't understand why he was overthinking the situation, and because of that, he doesn't. He concentrates on the attack, and also gets distracted from his defense. As a result, a surprise attack from the girl almost hits him. Fortunately, Luna prevents her from completing the attack and, upset, asks if the girl is crazy. However, regrettably, we'll end this video here, but if it receives a lot of support, I promise to bring you the continuation immediately. And without further ado, I wish you all the best, and see you next time. Caught on camera. This chaos displeases the girl, so she leaves the classroom. Everyone thought it was a fake video created through editing, but this video captured something real. That night, monsters began to emerge from the darkness, claiming they were searching for the key. Later that night, at his house, our hero was treating his wounds while looking in the mirror. He heard noises indicating someone was entering the room, and quickly hid his. He spread ointment on himself and pretended to be asleep. His grandmother opened the door and tried to talk to her grandson about having dinner, but she noticed the bandages on the bed and became sad. Naro then said that he had already eaten dinner before returning home. His grandmother let him rest and went out, but, behind the door, she realized that something was wrong. In the cramped room, under the sheets, the boy thought about his life and what he could do to change it. His grandmother was now washing the boy's clothes and noticed a fingerprint mark on the back of his shirt. On the other hand, we see that the demon he risked his life to defend his owner from a monster. But of course, the difference between the dog and the monster was vast, meaning that, in front of the building where they live, a truck approached to park. However, the sleepy driver, upon seeing the strange creature, experienced his final moments. Seconds of life. The next day, we see his grandmother preparing food for her grandson. Nero looks at his bruised face and wonders how he can hide this from Stuck, his grandmother. His grandmother tells him to go to the kitchen to eat. However, Nero says that he doesn't feel well, hides his face, and goes to take a shower before eating. As he walks into the bathroom, someone knocks on the door claiming to be a delivery service. Nero is worried, since he wasn't expecting any deliveries. Then he asks permission. The gloomy postman enters without warning. His face is suspicious, and when he finally gets closer, he reveals his monstrous face. The lady is surprised by how ugly he is, and then the monster almost hits her with a giant tongue. While this is happening, we see that Nero doesn't hear anything because of the noise of the grandmother falls to the floor in the shower and is about to be killed, but she manages to dodge the attack once again. Suddenly, the seemingly helpless lady looked like a completely different person. A power manifests in her hand and restrains the creature. The monster tries to break free, but the lady is stronger, now looking anything but helpless. The lady says she warned them not to chase after it. The trapped monster screams that it needs the key and goes into a frenzy. Its arms are destroyed, and it frees itself, attacking without any regard for anything. The house is being destroyed, and because the noise was so loud, Naro realized that the dog wouldn't be able to protect his owner. The mysterious boy jumped from the top of the building to save them, but before he reached the ground, an even more colossal creature surprised him. Something was wrong, and he immediately turns off the shower and tries to listen more closely to what's going on outside. His grandmother noticed this and immobilized the monster. Neck. preventing it from making any more noise. Realizing that the noises have stopped, he goes back to bathing. When this happens, the fight resumes, and the monster tries to attack Grandma, but she uses her blood techniques and counterattacks with more strange noises. Our hero turns off the shower again and now exits through the door to check things out. The monster and his grandmother notice the door opening. The suspense of whether everything would be discovered was postponed because our protagonist has soap in his eyes and, because of this, he can't see. His grandmother responds that it is just the noise from the television and that the sound is loud, because Grandma is getting older and doesn't hear well. All this happens while the creature, lurking in the shadows, observes with narrowed eyes. Covered, the grandmother keeps him quiet until the door closes again. Once it does, she directs her fury towards the monster. The creature says that even if he keep running, it's useless, but already annoyed by the monster's words, the grandmother then destroys the creature's head. As she does this, its body evaporates, as if it were smoke, leaving no trace that it was ever in that place. In the bathroom, Naro tries to hide the bruises on his face, since he doesn't want to let his grandmother worry about him when he goes to eat breakfast. His grandmother also hides a patch on her face to keep the secret that she is hiding. Surprised him. However, with a cold look, and showing no sign of fear, in the face of a creature capable of swallowing a person whole, the boy didn't hesitate to. That way, each of them prevents the other from discovering their secret. After this, the boy's problems continue at school during the sports class. Naro remembers that something seemed off about his grandmother's expression. Compounding this worry, the boy is so weak that, besides not being able to defend himself from bullies, keeping up with the class is very difficult for him. Today he was especially weak and collapses to the ground. The coach notices a fallen student and quickly rushes to help him. As he approaches, Naro experiences a strange, dark vision. Abysmal creatures from hell, in a place of chaos and flames, where we witness a strange figure leaping into a vortex of water. Then our hero wakes up, and we see that he was in the infirmary. The boy has a headache, and it's already late, meaning he slept for hours, all the while thinking it was just a dream. A stranger receives a call on his cell phone from his worried grandmother. His grandmother tells him that they are moving yet again, even though she knows he doesn't like it. Moving so much means they have to do it all over again. Here, we learn that the reason Naro is excluded from all activities is because he never stays long enough at one school. Every time he starts at a new school, his weakness inevitably prevents him from making friends, and instead of helping him, his classmates make fun of him and beat him up because of how weak he is. This ends up angering the prepare his attack and strike against it. As a result, both the monster and the building were destroyed with just one blow. The sound of this attack drew the others, and as a result, he ends up being excluded from the rest of the class. Without friends, our boy has always felt alone, and before he has a chance to change, that always ended in moving, which meant he would have to repeat the entire process. Years passed, and now he is a teenager who has never. He had finally learned how to make friends, and now he was about to have to move again. That night, he and his grandmother didn't speak, and his grandmother stayed awake all night to make sure the creatures didn't return. She watched over her grandson's room, wondering how much longer she could keep him safe. His house wasn't attacked again, but we see more abyssal creatures emerging from the depths of hell that same night. A man was driving his truck near where the monsters appeared. At that moment, the man felt something, and looked up. Only to, feeling nothing again, he directs his gaze forward, telling himself that he must drive carefully. He notices the demon at his window, and terror is immediately reflected in his eyes. The man gets quite scared, and because of this, his truck spun out and crashed into the road barrier. The man remained still for a few minutes until more demonic creatures arrived at the truck, and only God knows what happened to him. The next morning, the building's janitor feeds a kitten, and in the garage, we see a truck identical to the one from the previous night parked there.